I thought it was just a patch of weak concrete, until the sledgehammer went straight through, and the heat that came up felt like it was breathing. I bought the house because it was a steal, half the asking price, big property secluded at the edge of a thick forest. The realtor said the foundation had settling issues, but I planned to gut and renovate anyway. I was handy, confident. The basement was the first project. Damp, old, with stone walls covered in mildew. I started by ripping up the uneven concrete slab to install proper drainage. On the third day of work, I noticed one patch that sounded hollow when I tapped it with a hammer. The slab there was thicker, and the concrete had a reddish hue like iron-rich clay. When I cracked it open, a thick blast of hot air rose up from the hole. Not warm, hot like standing in front of an open oven. I backed away, expecting maybe busted pipes or an old heating line, but there was nothing mechanical underneath. Just a narrow stone shaft descending into total blackness. And something else. Fresh scratches on the stone lining the walls. Long, jagged claw marks, some of them deep enough to chip away stone. No dust. No wear. Whatever made them had done so recently. At first, I figured I'd stumbled onto an old coal chute or maintenance tunnel. Maybe something from before the house was built. I dropped a flashlight down. It bounced once on a lip of rock and kept falling and falling until the light vanished. No clatter. Just silence. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining things crawling up from the dark. The house made strange noises, settling, I told myself. Just settling. But then came the smell. By morning, the whole basement reeked like burned hair and rot. I tried to air it out, but the smell was rising. It felt wrong, like it was coming up instead of wafting out. I went back down with a stronger flashlight and my phone recording. This time the shaft felt different. The stone around the opening was warm to the touch. Not just warm, throbbing like it had a pulse. When I leaned in closer, I heard it. Breathing. Not loud. Shallow. What? Like something large asleep below. And then, something moved. I didn't see it, but I felt the shift in air pressure, like a mass deeper down had stirred. Dust fell from the tunnel walls. The hairs on my arms lifted. I ran upstairs and sealed the hole with plywood and every heavy object I could stack. But the heat didn't stop. That night, the house vibrated. A low hum that you couldn't hear with your ears, only feel in your bones. My phone screen kept glitching. The radio turned on by itself. Just static, then a whisper I couldn't make out. At 3:13 a.m., I heard footsteps coming from the basement. Not fast. Deliberate. I didn't sleep. In the morning, I called a structural engineer. Told him I found something unusual and needed an evaluation. He came 2 days later with ground-penetrating radar. He never went near the shaft. The moment his scanner passed over the plywood, the screen froze. Then crashed. He laughed it off, said the stone density was probably interfering with the signal. But before he left, he pulled me aside and asked if I'd noticed odd heat zones in the house. I said yes. He nodded, hesitated, then told me to get it sealed and forget about it. That night, the claw marks were on the outside of the plywood. I started hearing things under the floorboards. Scraping. Whispering. Sometimes my name. Always around 3:13. I moved a mattress into the living room and started sleeping with a crowbar. Then, 3 nights ago, the plywood cracked. Not like it was giving way. Like it was being peeled back from the inside. I haven't been back down there since. I don't know how deep the tunnel goes or what's at the bottom, but whatever it is, it's awake now. And every night, the heat creeps higher through the floor. Last night, I found a fresh scratch across the inside of my bedroom wall. There's no stone up here. No shaft. Just drywall and plaster. Which means it's not just coming up anymore. It's coming through. The park ranger didn't just warn us. He looked past us, like something behind us was already listening, and said, "If the light goes out in there, don't run. Just stop breathing." It was supposed to be a weekend hike. Me, my girlfriend Kayla, and our 2 friends Mike and Darren. We'd rented a cabin near Ash Valley National Park, where there were supposedly abandoned mining tunnels past the main cave system. Kayla had found it on some conspiracy thread, stories of old carvings, strange echo chambers, even underground symbols. The kind of thing urban explorers live for. We asked the ranger, an older guy in a weathered brown uniform, if we could check out the restricted cave routes. He stiffened immediately, said we could go as far as the main shaft, but don't go beyond the rust gate. His tone was grave, not sarcastic, not annoyed. Grave. Mike joked about cryptid curfews, and the ranger didn't even smile. He leaned in close and said, "If you go past it, and you hear breathing that isn't yours, you've already gone too far." I thought it was part of the gimmick. Local scare tactic. But it got to me. Enough that I brought extra batteries, 2 backup flashlights, and a pack of red glow sticks. We entered the caves late afternoon. They were beautiful at first, high arched ceilings, cool dripping water, and ancient graffiti scorched into the walls. Then we found it, the rusted gate. It was chained open. No lock. I felt Kayla hesitate. She touched my arm and whispered, "Didn't he say not to go through?" But Mike had already stepped past it. "I just want to peek around one corner," he said. The tunnel got narrower and colder. Our voices echoed weird, like they were coming back twisted. I don't know how far in we went, maybe 10 minutes past the gate. Then, every single flashlight blinked. Not dimmed, blinked off at once. Clicking didn't help. None of them worked. I yanked my backpack open and cracked a red glow stick. The light barely pushed out 10 feet. That's when we heard it. A breath. Not one of us. Not human. It was wet. Heavy. Like steam rushing through a throat. Then came the sound that made Kayla start sobbing. Something scraped the stone. Long, slow. Like claws, or scales, being dragged around us in a perfect circle. Whatever it was close. We couldn't see it, but we could hear its weight shifting, slithering along the wall. None of us moved. Darren whispered, "Turn the light off." "What?" I hissed. He shook his head violently. "Whatever it is, it's following the glow." We killed the light. Total darkness. I've never felt dark like that. It pressed in like a physical thing. The air got thicker. And in the silence we could all hear it. Breathing closer. Closer. Then right behind us, a click. Not claws. Not breath. A human tongue. Clicking the roof of its mouth. I don't know who ran first. It might have been me. But we all broke. Sprinting blindly through the dark, stumbling over rocks, arms stretched out to feel the walls. Kayla screamed once, cut off mid-scream. I skidded to a stop. "Kayla?" No answer. I cracked another glow stick. Mike appeared behind me, gasping. Darren was nowhere. But on the far wall, where no one had passed, I saw a smear of handprints. Not ours. Long fingers. Too many joints. Mike and I followed the red glow, retracing our steps. Every few feet we stopped. Listen. The only sound was dripping water, and once, just once, I swear I heard a laugh. We found Kayla 5 minutes later, standing perfectly still in a side tunnel. Her back was to us, shoulders stiff, like she'd been posed. When I touched her, she gasped and collapsed into me. Her face was pale, lips blue. She kept whispering. He spoke in my voice. He said he remembered my face. Mike and I carried her out. We never found Darren. Once we passed the rusted gate, our flashlights flickered on. No battery issues. Just came back. We reported it. The ranger didn't look surprised. He just said one thing. Most things in that cave remember being deeper. We never spoke to Darren's family. No police followed up. But every month since, we get a voicemail from an unknown number. No words. Just breathing. And faint scraping stone. His boots were always clean, but he smelled like dirt that had never seen the sun. The kind of rot that doesn't come from the surface. My best friend Josh never talked much about his dad. He'd just say he's got a weird job, or he works underground, mining stuff. But the truth was his dad didn't look like any miner I'd ever seen. He was too still. Never blinked much. Never coughed or scratched or yawned. The kind of person you forget is even breathing, until you look long enough to wonder if he still is. I only met him a few times. He always wore the same gray jumpsuit, clean and pressed, even when coming home late. The collar was tight and stiff like a uniform, but there was never a company logo. And he never used the front door. Every night, around 11:30, he'd leave. And around 4 a.m. he'd return, always stepping in from the basement. Josh told me there was a back access tunnel in their sublevel garage. I figured it connected to the old quarry a few miles off. But then one weekend, Josh and his mom went out of town for a funeral. I agreed to house sit, feed their cat, check mail, stuff like that. His dad apparently still had to go in. That Friday night, around 11:25, I heard the basement door unlock. Curiosity won. I crept down the carpeted stairs, careful not to make a sound. The door to the garage was cracked just enough for me to see through. Josh's dad stood in front of an elevator I'd never seen before. It was built right into the concrete wall, metallic, matte black, and taller than any normal lift. There were no floor buttons on the outside, just a small rectangular panel that flickered as he touched it. He didn't use a key, didn't scan a badge. He just pressed his palm flat. The doors opened with a low hiss. Cold air rolled out like fog. What I saw inside didn't make sense. The elevator shaft wasn't lit from above, it glowed from below. And it went down, far deeper than it should have. Way deeper. I couldn't even see the bottom. Josh's dad didn't hesitate. He stepped in, arms straight at his sides, eyes forward like he was going to church. The doors closed, and he was gone. I waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. I should have gone back upstairs, but something told me to wait. At 3:47 a.m., the panel lit up again. The doors hissed open, and Josh's dad stepped out. Same jumpsuit, same blank face, but something was wrong. His eyes didn't blink. I watched closely. I waited for a squint, a flutter, even a shift of focus. But the pupils didn't move. His head turned toward the stairwell. I ducked out of sight, then he walked stiffly into the house like nothing had happened. I barely slept. The next morning I searched the garage. The elevator was gone, or hidden. Just a blank concrete wall where it had been. But I know what I saw. Later that week, Josh got back. I didn't mention anything until the third day. I said, "Hey, can I ask something weird? About your dad?" Josh tensed. He nodded slowly. I told him what I saw. The elevator. The eyes. He looked at the floor for a long time, then said something I'll never forget. He used to be different. Before the job. I asked what the job even was. Josh said he wasn't sure. Just that it started when his dad got a letter. No return address, just a black stamp. He never applied. He just left one night and came back changed. I asked, "What's down there?" Josh hesitated, then whispered, "A city. Under everything." I laughed. I thought he was messing with me, but he just stared. He told my mom once, years ago, said it was quiet down there, said it was always warm, said the things that live there don't like the surface noise. That night I went back. I don't know why. Maybe to prove it wasn't real. Maybe to see the elevator again. At 11:28, I stood in their dark garage. The wall shimmered. It didn't open, not like a door. Just peeled away, like a film separating from glass. The black elevator stood behind it, waiting. And behind that, I saw something moving. Not human, just watching me. I ran. I don't talk to Josh anymore. His mom says he left for training a few weeks later. I asked what kind. She just smiled and said, same job as his father. Sometimes, late at night, I dream of elevators, doors hissing open, lights glowing from below. and eyes that never blink. It didn't blink. It didn't stop. And it was crawling on the ceiling, watching us through the train windows like it had been waiting. I take the subway every day. Same train, same time, same route. Brooklyn to Midtown, switch at 14th, then ride the local 3 more stops to work. I've done this commute for years. Nothing ever happens, or at least nothing used to. Last Thursday, my train stopped unexpectedly between stations. That's not uncommon. It was late, past 11 p.m., and the conductor's voice crackled over the speaker saying, "Delay ahead. We'll be moving shortly." The usual. But this time the lights dimmed. Just for a second. Then the whole car went quiet. Not just low volume quiet, no one moved. No one spoke. A guy 2 seats away who'd been scrolling TikTok just froze. His screen still lit, but his thumb didn't move. The silence felt wrong. Like the air had dropped 10 degrees. My breath fogged up the window beside me, which it never does underground. That's when I looked outside. We were in one of those long tunnels between stations. Concrete walls barely 2 feet from the window. Normally there's graffiti, wires, trash, or maintenance pipes along the edges. But this wall was clean, smooth, like freshly poured cement. But old, too old. At first I thought I saw a flicker of movement, just a trick of the shadows. But then it came back. A shape crawling slowly across the upper corner of the tunnel wall. I pressed my face to the glass. It was on the ceiling. It moved like a spider, but slower. Too slow. Each limb gripped the wall with this twitching precision, like it wasn't used to its own body. The worst part, though, wasn't how it moved. It was its eyes. Slitted, yellow. Reflective like a cat's, but deeper. More focused. They tracked the train car window and locked with mine. I don't know how to explain it. I couldn't hear anything through the thick glass, but its mouth started moving. What? Too wide. Slow, exaggerated syllables. It was mouthing words. I couldn't hear them, but I could feel them in my chest. Like pressure. Like I knew I wasn't supposed to hear what it was saying, but my bones were trying to understand. And then, I swear, I felt something behind me. Not a person. Not a presence. A pull. Like gravity had shifted and was dragging everything, me, my thoughts, even the heat from my skin, toward the thing outside the window. The lights flickered again. The train jolted and suddenly we were moving. I blinked and just like that it was gone. I sat there the rest of the ride in complete silence, watching the reflection of my own pale face in the dark window, half expecting to see those eyes looking back. When I got home I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes I saw its face, thin, stretched, more masked than flesh, and its mouth, still forming those silent, horrible words. I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. Who would believe it? It wasn't until the next night, scrolling Reddit to distract myself, that I came across a thread in r/NYC titled, "Did anyone else see something in the tunnels?" The top comment, "Late night Q train stop between 7th and DeKalb. Swear I saw something crawling above the car. Thought it was just me." Another user posted a blurry photo. You couldn't make out much, but in the corner of the frame was a faint glint. 2 small, glowing reflections. The next night, I avoided the subway. Called an Uber. Paid too much, didn't care. But the third night, curiosity got the best of me. I needed to know. So I took the same train. Same time. Sat in the same seat. Nothing happened. Until the train pulled into my stop. As we slowed to a crawl, I saw something etched into the platform wall outside. I almost missed it. 4 words. "We see through glass." I ran. I don't take the train anymore. But sometimes when I'm walking alone at night past sidewalk grates, I swear I hear whispering below. Or see movement in the shadows where there shouldn't be room for anything to move. And once, just once, I swear I saw those same yellow eyes, watching me through the reflection in my phone screen, mouthing something I almost understood. I expected the bunker to be cold, silent, and forgotten. Instead, the air was warm, breathing, and something inside had been waiting for me. I'm not a conspiracy nut. Let me get that out of the way first. I'm just a guy who loves abandoned places. Forgotten Cold War relics, shuttered hospitals, those roadside fallout shelters built in the 60s. There's something about them. The silence, the dust, the sense that time just stopped inside. So when I found a decommissioned military installation labeled D78 on an old topographic map in a used bookstore, I got curious. It was in the middle of nowhere, dense forest in northern Pennsylvania. No roads led directly to it anymore. Just an old trailhead that had eroded into a deer path over the decades. That only made it more appealing. It took me nearly 4 hours of hiking to reach it. There was no barbed wire, no signs, no surveillance. Just 2 enormous slabs of moss-covered concrete built into the hillside like a buried tomb, and in between them, a rusted steel door with a handwheel lock. The odd thing? The door didn't look rusted shut. No corrosion around the hinges. The bolts were clean, and when I touched the metal, it was warm. Not sun-warmed. Radiating heat, like it was breathing. I almost turned around then, but curiosity is a hell of a drug. I twisted the wheel. It clicked easily like it had been oiled yesterday. The door opened inward with a groan I felt in my teeth. A stale gust of air hit me, warm, metallic, and sweet, almost like rotting fruit. I clicked on my flashlight and stepped inside. The hallway descended at a steep angle, reinforced concrete walls lined with rusting pipes and faded hazard markings. The silence was oppressive. No wind, no animals, just the echo of my own footsteps and the low buzz of something far, far below. I passed an old security station, glass shattered, phones gutted, monitors blank. Past that rows of empty rooms, bunk beds stripped bare, desks covered in dust. No sign of people for decades, until I found the door. It was marked, Sector 7, Biocontainment. The paint was fresh. No dust. No cobwebs. Just a massive vault door with a blinking green light above it. That's when I heard it. A soft, wet hiss from the other side. Then words. Slurred. Wrong. You're early. My flashlight flickered. I backed away, quietly, carefully, but the moment I turned around, I heard something moving behind the door. Fast. Scraping. Clicking. I ran. Not a full sprint, just fast enough to not make noise. I didn't want to draw attention. I didn't know what I'd just heard, but I knew it wasn't right. I was almost to the exit corridor when something clicked on above me. A speaker. Return to containment. The voice was wrong. Robotic, but not synthetic. Like a human was trying to sound like a machine and failing. Something in it shook the back of my skull. Subject D78. You are not yet finished. I sprinted. As I reached the steel door, I slammed my shoulder into it. It had locked itself. The wheel wouldn't turn. Behind me, the hallway lights began flickering on, one by one, in sequence. Something was coming up the corridor. I could hear it now. Not footsteps, wet slaps like bare feet dragging across concrete. Slow, deliberate, then another hiss. Closer this time. Return. We've improved you. I pounded on the door, shouted, "Kick." Then finally I remembered the emergency override lever near the hinges, something I'd seen on a similar installation online. I yanked it, twisted the wheel, and the door creaked open with a metallic scream. I didn't look back. I ran until my legs gave out, crawling the last 100 feet until I reached sunlight. Even now, I don't know what I saw, or what saw me. I called local officials, told them there was a structural hazard in the woods. A sinkhole. I didn't mention the door, or the voice. That was 3 days ago. Last night, I got a letter slipped under my front door. No stamp, no envelope, just a single sentence written in black ink. You were not cleared for release. And underneath it, something smeared. A fingerprint, still warm. He wouldn't let me hug him when he came back. He just kept shaking, kept whispering, "Don't touch my spine, they'll hear you." My brother Mark went missing last September during a solo camping trip in the mountains near Trinity County, California. He was always the outdoorsy one, ex-military, disciplined, fearless. He'd done that route before, knew the terrain, always left maps and check-ins. But this time he vanished. His gear was found undisturbed. His fire pit had been doused. No signs of struggle. No animals. Just gone. We mourned him for 3 weeks. I helped organize search parties, checked local hospitals, called every sheriff's office in the state. It was like he'd been erased from the earth. Then, 31 days after his disappearance, he showed up at my door. He looked like he hadn't slept in years. Pale, thin, hair disheveled, with a smell like copper and bleach. His eyes darted around the hallway like he expected someone to grab him. I opened my arms, but he recoiled violently. "No," he rasped, clutching the back of his neck. "No sudden movements. They're still scanning." I thought he was delusional. Maybe trauma. Maybe drugs. But then I saw the raised scar at the base of his spine. A fresh incision, maybe 3 inches long, sealed with surgical glue. It pulsed slightly. I swear it moved when he breathed. He refused to go to a hospital. "They'll find me," he whispered. "They've got the frequencies tuned to hospital equipment. Imaging will activate it." I didn't sleep that night. He sat on my couch staring at the wall, clutching a kitchen knife and muttering equations under his breath. I didn't recognize the language. The next morning he asked me for copper wire, batteries, and a microwave magnetron. I laughed, until I realized he was serious. He said he was trying to scramble the tether. "I escaped the base," he told me. But the base didn't escape me. I finally asked him, where had he been? He paused for a long time. Then he said, "Underground." It wasn't military. Not ours. According to him, it started with lights. Blinding, soundless flashes that paralyzed him. He said they didn't drag him, they phased him downward, through the earth. He awoke strapped to a metal surface in a circular room with no shadows. The air smelled like ozone and vinegar. The walls pulsed like lungs. They weren't human, he said. They wore faces like masks, too smooth, no pores. When they talked, it sounded like they were breathing syllables through water. He claimed they inserted something into his spine. A tracker. Maybe more. Sometimes I see through other people. Just flashes like a glitch. But it's not my brain doing it. When he realized they were conditioning him, running tests to erase emotion, he played along. Pretended the programming was working. When the restraints relaxed, he escaped through a ventilation shaft that led upward for miles. I didn't know what to say. It sounded insane, except every few hours his back twitched. Not like a muscle spasm. More like something inside was adjusting. That night, I heard him whispering in my bathroom. Not to himself. Into the mirror. I crept closer. He was speaking in the same unknown language I'd heard earlier. Sharp, rhythmic syllables. His reflection wasn't matching his mouth movements. The reflection kept smiling. I confronted him the next morning. He denied it, said I was dreaming. But later that day, I found the kitchen knives bent in half like they'd been folded by heat. The microwave was missing, so were the batteries. And the guest room door had deep gouges along the inside frame, claw marks, not fingernails. That evening he came to me trembling. "They changed my heartbeat," he said. "I can't sleep. It pulses in code. I think I'm transmitting." I begged him to get help. Told him I'd take him off-grid anywhere. He shook his head. "They'll just pull me back down." The last night I saw him, I found him kneeling in the backyard, digging into the dirt with his bare hands. He'd carved symbols into the soil, geometric, spiral patterns radiating from a central point. He looked up at me and said, "If it activates, don't bury me. Burn me. You have to burn me." Then he ran. I haven't seen him since. Sometimes my phone picks up static at 3:14 a.m. sharp. Just for a few seconds. Once I heard a whisper through the static. It's deeper than before. I had the guest room floorboards replaced. Under them, I found a note burned into the wood. They're building a second one, inside me. And sometimes, when I look in the mirror for too long, I catch my reflection blinking. Just a little too late. He stood in the middle of the street, naked from the waist up, clawing at his own face and screaming, "They're hatching under your feet." I used to work late nights at a 24-hour bodega in Queens. Quiet street, good tips, occasional weirdos. Nothing too crazy. That changed the week the homeless guy started camping outside the subway grate near 81st and Langley. We all just called him Eggman. He'd sit there rocking back and forth, muttering about breeding tunnels and vein chambers under the city. First couple days he was background noise, just another burnout yelling at pigeons. But then he started getting specific. 16 eggs warm as bone marrow. One under every corner, they breathe in the rain. He'd shout that while pointing at the manhole covers on our block. Sometimes he'd scream bloody murder for 10 minutes straight, then collapse like someone yanked his power cord. Most people avoided him. A few tossed change. But he never asked for money. Never moved. Just sat there, guarding that grate like a dog over a wound. On the fourth night, my coworker Alan vanished. He was supposed to cover graveyard shift. Never showed. I called his cell, no answer. I even walked by his apartment after my shift ended, no sign of him. Then the next night, Rosa, the overnight nurse from 2 buildings down, didn't come home either. That's when I noticed something strange. Every single person who vanished had one thing in common. They walked past the same manhole before disappearing. The one closest to where Eggman slept. I still remember the first night I took it seriously. I was smoking behind the shop around 3 a.m. Cold, drizzly, the kind of rain that feels like skin. I leaned against the dumpster, flicking my lighter when I heard something slithering. What? Hollow. Like something thick dragging itself through a pipe. Then something else like eggs cracking. Dozens of tiny, wet snaps echoing up from below the sewer grate. I walked over and stared down. Just darkness. But then I smelled it. Rotten milk mixed with formaldehyde. A thick, chemical stink that burned my throat and made my gums tingle. The steam rising out of the grate had a weird shimmer to it, like heat waves but colder. Slicker. That's when Eggman grabbed my arm. He came out of nowhere, grimy fingers like clamps, and hissed, "Don't breathe too long. They're scenting you." I shoved him off. Called him crazy. Went inside. But I didn't sleep that night. 2 more people vanished that week. A UPS driver. A guy from the diner. No screams. No struggle. Just gone. I started avoiding the manholes. Especially that one near the grate. That Saturday, cops showed up. We thought maybe someone finally reported the disappearances. But no, they were there for Eggman. Someone complained about unhinged behavior. I watched them drag him away. He kept screaming one sentence over and over as they cuffed him. "You're sending them food." After that, it got worse. Every manhole on our block started steaming. Thick, wet mist that clung to your ankles. People stopped walking their dogs at night. Pets would whimper near the covers, tails between legs, pulling toward home. One morning, I found oily smears leading from a manhole to an alley behind the bakery. Claw marks on the pavement. The kind that curve upward like something was dragged back in. I told the landlord. He said it was probably raccoons. Then my roommate, Dave, went missing. That was it. I broke into the City Works archive that weekend looking for old sewer maps. Found something strange. A sealed tunnel network beneath our street, decommissioned in 1962. Never filled in. Just marked, non-service utility black access. That's not a real designation. So I went back to the manhole. Bolted shut, but I had tools. I pried it open around 1 a.m. The metal was warm, pulsing like it had a heartbeat. When I opened it, steam poured out, hot, sweet, and wrong. I gagged. Below was a spiral tunnel lined with a slick, grayish membrane. Not brick, not metal, something organic. And then I heard it, chittering. What? Eager. I slammed the cover shut and ran. Called the cops. They laughed. Said I was stressed. The next day, I saw the manhole was welded shut. Fresh seams. By morning, 2 more people were gone. Eggman's been missing too. No arrest records. No bookings. Vanished like the rest. Now, every time I walk past that street, I hear clicking beneath the pavement. Not rats. Something coordinating. Last night I saw it. Just a glimpse. Something with too many joints, too little skin, pressed against the underside of the storm drain, watching. Grinned. But it had no mouth. I think the eggs have hatched. And I think we're next. They told me not to look up, not to speak, and never to ask questions. I followed every rule, until the thing that answered the door smiled at me. I've been delivering food for years. Weird instructions come with the territory, gate codes, leave at the door, don't ring the bell, you name it. But nothing prepared me for the job labeled private client, high pay, cash only. It came through a third-party app I'd never seen before. A driver-only service that promised $500 for a single drop. One address. No route sharing. The catch. I had to sign a waiver. Not a digital terms and conditions kind of waiver. This was a PDF attachment titled Conduct Guidelines for Intra-Restricted Delivery. It said, do not speak to anyone. Do not make eye contact. Do not stray from the path. Do not enter the building. If approached, remain still. The delivery was from a Thai place. Pad CEW and green curry, still hot, still leaking that familiar spicy aroma into the car. I double-checked the address and the GPS glitched for a moment, then recalculated. The road didn't exist on any map app. Just a dirt turnoff along the edge of the industrial district, right past a cluster of shuttered warehouses. I followed it anyway. The path wound deep into the trees. I passed 3 identical, unmarked black signs with nothing on them. My cell signal dropped completely. By the time I arrived, the sun had dipped behind the horizon. I parked in front of a chain-link gate that opened on its own. No intercom, no guard. Just a low, mechanical hum vibrating the air. A white line had been painted along the gravel drive, leading from the gate to the front entrance of a low, concrete building. No windows, no signage. Just a steel door, slightly ajar. I got out, holding the bag with both hands like it was sacred. The instructions had been clear. Follow the line. Do not speak. Do not look up. I stared at my shoes the whole way. The air smelled strange, like burned copper and mildew. I heard dripping in the distance. Metallic echoes. Something shuffled behind the walls. When I reached the door, I placed the bag on a black metal tray just like the guide said. I didn't mean to break the rules. But the sound that came next, it made me flinch. It was breathing. Not human breathing. Wet and rhythmic like a pump sucking through mucus. I felt something move on the other side of the tray, felt it before I saw it. Heat radiated outward. A presence, dense and pressurized like it was too big for the space it inhabited. And then, something lifted the bag. I caught it out of the corner of my eye. The hand, if you could call it that, was green, scaled like a lizard, with 3 long fingers and a thumb, each tipped with a dull, cracked claw. Veins pulsed under translucent flesh. It paused, holding the bag delicately as if waiting. I should have left. I meant to leave. But something in my head, some raw, stupid part of me, made me look up. And it smiled. It wasn't just a mouth. The whole face split, peeling back along seams that had no business existing. Rows of teeth in spirals. Slit-pupiled eyes that blinked sideways. Its skin shimmered in the dim overhead bulb, refracting light like oil on water. And it said, in a voice that sounded poured, not spoken, "You looked." I don't remember how I got back to the car. I just remember sitting in the driver's seat, trembling, realizing the steering wheel was wet, soaked with the same mucus glaze that coated the thing's hand. The gate opened behind me without a sound. I drove home in silence, heart slamming in my throat the whole time. The next morning, I had a new message on the mystery delivery app. You broke protocol. You are not authorized for further tasks. The app vanished off my phone 5 seconds later. Just disappeared like it never existed. Even the food order receipt was gone from my inbox. I tried to report what happened, but report to who? No one could trace the address. The Thai restaurant said they never received an order with that name. I asked a cop friend to run the location. The city says that section of road was demolished in 1987. But last night, I woke up to a sound at my front door. Something placed a hot food bag on my welcome mat. No note, just the smell of green curry, and a long green handprint across my front window. Every year, our town drops a little lower, an inch at a time, like something underneath is slowly pulling it down. Now I know what lives beneath us and why they haven't stopped. I've lived in Dredgerton, Pennsylvania my whole life. A place with one grocery store, 2 bars, and too many churches. The kind of town where nothing ever changes, except the ground. They say the whole valley sinks by an inch every year. Some geological subsidence thing, soft shale bedrock, they claimed. Harmless according to the experts. But if you ask the locals, they'll tell you different. Doors don't close right anymore. Cracks split across foundations like veins. Some houses tilt just enough that water doesn't drain right. Still, no one really cared, not until the sinkhole started opening. The first one swallowed half a parking lot behind the Lutheran church. Then came another in the woods behind my cousin's place. This one deeper, darker, and louder. He swore he heard clicking from down there, like bones tapping together. The county finally sent geologists to investigate the third one, which opened right in the middle of old Route 12. They lowered a camera rig down into the pit. The footage was supposed to be for official use only, but my buddy Darren works maintenance for the township, and he snagged a copy onto a flash drive before they sealed it. We watched it in my garage at night, doors shut, lights off. At first, the video showed the usual, wet, cracked earth, twisted roots, crumbling shale. Then, at about 47 feet down, it opened into a chamber. Not a cavern, not a hollow. A tunnel, long and arched, constructed. The walls were scored with deep claw marks, not scratches. Gashes, like something massive had dragged itself through over and over again. The floor was slick with something dark, thick, and pooled in uneven puddles. Then came the moment we stopped breathing. The camera panned slowly and caught a row of objects against the far wall. Torn fabric, jeans, a red jacket, a child's backpack, all arranged neatly, lined up like trophies. There was no wildlife down there. No evidence of a den. Just human clothing, and one more thing. Just before the feed cut out, the audio picked up a wet, slithering sound. Then, something large moved through the shadows beyond the beam of light. You couldn't see it, but you could hear it dragging something with too many limbs. The footage ended in static. I asked Darren if they said anything about what happened next. He told me, his voice shaking, they pulled the equipment out immediately. They weren't supposed to talk about it. They sealed the hole with concrete and fencing the same day. Claimed it was unstable ground. Case closed. But I kept thinking about those tunnels. And the clothing. I started going back through missing persons reports in town, stretching back decades. Dredgerton doesn't have a big crime rate, but there were disappearances. Hikers. Teenagers. Even an entire family in the 90s. Always dismissed as runaways or car trouble. But they never found a trace. Until now. I went to the site a week later. The area was locked up, surrounded by concrete barriers. But the fence near the back had been bent outward, like something had pushed from below. And the dirt there? It was still damp, still warm. That night, my dreams turned strange. I saw long tunnels with no end. felt the pressure of the earth above me. And in the dream, something whispered that the town was sinking by design, that the deeper the tunnel stretched, the more it could reach. I woke up to a sharp chemical smell in my room and a perfect ring of black dust beneath my bed. The next morning, Darren was gone. No note, no trace. His truck was found by the river, keys still in the ignition. He'd been watching the footage again the night before. I tried showing the flash drive to others, but the file had corrupted. Just static and screeching now. Like whatever was on it didn't want to be remembered. They've started construction on a new foundation near Town Hall. Another layer of concrete. Another inch down. But I don't think it's about safety. I think they're feeding it. I walk different streets now. I avoid drains. I stay away from manholes and storm grates. The metal covers feel warm under your feet, like something is breathing just beneath. Our town sinks an inch every year. One day we'll all be under the surface, where it's been waiting. Every night, exactly at 2:47 a.m., the lights would flicker and the security cameras would black out. But the strangest part? The service elevator always came back from a floor that didn't exist. I was hired for a night security job beneath one of the oldest government buildings in the city. The kind of place with cold stone walls, endless hallways, and enough locked doors to make anyone paranoid. They said the basement levels were just storage, maintenance rooms, and archives. Nothing unusual. But nothing about that job was ordinary. The first few nights were uneventful, just the usual hum of fluorescent lights and the distant clatter of pipes. The old building groaned with its own age, creaking and settling like a living thing. I kept my rounds tight, eyes glued to the bank of monitors in the tiny security office. Then it started. At exactly 2:47 a.m. on the dot, every night the lights would flicker, like the building itself was shivering, and all the camera feeds would go dead. The screens turned to static, a hiss filling the room. I'd slam my fist on the console, but nothing worked until minutes later the lights snapped back on and the cameras returned. What caught my attention was the service elevator. I monitored it closely because every morning when the day shift arrived, the elevator would be parked on the lowest basement level. That didn't seem odd until I noticed the display panel showed a floor number that didn't exist on any of the building's official blueprints. I asked my supervisor about it. "Must be a software glitch," he said, brushing it off. "Old buildings have weird quirks." But I wasn't convinced. One night, determined to understand what was happening, I decided to stay near the elevator shaft during the blackout at 2:47 a.m. My heart thudded as the lights flickered and the monitors died again. The entire building plunged into darkness, except for the faint red glow of the elevator call button. Then I heard it, a faint metallic grinding sound, followed by slow, heavy footsteps echoing in the empty hall outside the elevator doors. I froze, straining to listen. The doors slid open with a harsh squeal. Silence. Then, just as I was about to call out, the doors began to close on their own. Suddenly, a cold gust blew into the shaft, carrying a faint whisper. I swear I heard my name. I staggered back to the security office, my skin prickling. The cameras blinked back to life, showing the elevator on that unlisted basement floor, labeled only as B13. But on the feed, the elevator doors were slightly ajar, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. I told myself it was a trick of the mind. Old building, late hours, exhaustion. But then morning came with a new surprise. The elevator was always back on B13 when I checked the log. The day crew never mentioned the extra floor. The building's official records only showed up to B10. On my next shift, curiosity gnawed at me. I waited until the blackout at 2:47 a.m., then pressed the elevator button myself, stepping inside as the doors closed silently behind me. The elevator lurched downward, past B10 into the darkness. The emergency light flickered weakly, casting long shadows along the metal walls. When the doors opened, I found myself in a narrow, dimly lit corridor lined with heavy steel doors, all sealed shut. The air was thick, stale, and cold enough to bite through my jacket. A low mechanical hum vibrated through the floor. From somewhere deep within the hallway, a soft scratching noise echoed, like nails against concrete. I tried the doors, all were locked tight. Suddenly, the lights flickered again and I caught a glimpse of movement, a shadow darting just beyond my vision. I slammed the elevator button and prayed it would take me back. The ride up felt endless, the hum growing louder, a low, distorted whispering filling the cramped space. When the doors opened at the surface level, I was shaking. My breath came in ragged gasps. I looked back toward the shaft, but the doors slid shut and the elevator disappeared. I reported the experience the next day, but my supervisor said no such floor existed. The building blueprints showed nothing. The cameras never caught anything unusual. I checked the elevator log again. B13 appeared only between 2:47 and 3:02 a.m. Then it vanished as if the floor itself was a secret, hidden in plain sight. I don't work there anymore. Sometimes, late at night, I hear the faint sound of that elevator sliding open, and a whisper calling my name, promising I'll return soon. Because some floors in some buildings were never meant to be found.